in the grimy, rain-soaked streets of Blackwater Bay, where neon lights flickered like dying stars against crumbling brick walls. Fear had become as permanent as the rust on abandoned shipping containers. The town's once thriving industrial district now stood as a graveyard of broken dreams, its skeletal remains casting long shadows across puddle-strewn alleys. Every night, the air carried an electric tension, heavy with unspoken terror that gripped residents in their homes, their curtains drawn tight against the darkness outside. At the heart of this oppressive atmosphere lay Red Hook territory, a labyrinth of warehouses and deserted factories that served as the fortress for the infamous Black Vipers gang. Their reputation preceded them. Stories whispered in trembling voices spoke of midnight raids, shattered stores, and families disappearing without a trace. The gang's leader, Victor the Viper Draven, was a monstrous figure whose very name could empty streets in seconds. His presence was marked by the distinctive sound of steel-toed boots echoing through empty corridors. What began as petty extortion evolved into systematic terror, with businesses forced to display the Black Viper serpent emblem in their windows, or face destruction. Amidst this suffocating atmosphere of dread, a new presence emerged, one that would challenge the established order and ignite a spark of hope in the darkest corners of Blackwater Bay. Mike Tyson's arrival in Blackwater Bay was as unexpected as it was fortuitous. The legendary boxer, fresh from delivering a motivational speech at a local community center, found himself wandering through the desolate streets of Red Hook. At 57, Tyson still carried the physical presence of his fighting days, his muscular build enhanced by years of disciplined training, his signature tribal tattoo peeking out from beneath his leather jacket, a silent testament to both his heritage and warrior spirit. What drew Tyson to Blackwater Bay wasn't just coincidence. He had heard whispers of the town's plight during his travels, stories that resonated deeply with his own experiences growing up in Brooklyn's toughest neighborhoods. As he navigated the rain-slicked streets, his sharp eyes caught details others might miss. Hastily boarded-up windows, fresh graffiti that seemed more like territorial markers than street art, and the way even stray cats disappeared into shadows at the sound of approaching footsteps. The encounter that would change everything occurred when Tyson turned down a particularly narrow alley, drawn by the sound of muffled cries. There, illuminated by a flickering street lamp, he witnessed a scene that ignited the fire of resistance burning within him. A group of teenagers, led by 17-year-old Marcus Mack Thompson, were being cornered by 3 Black Vipers members. Their switchblades caught the dim light as they advanced menacingly. Mack, clutching a battered skateboard like a shield, stood protectively in front of his younger sister, Lily, her frightened eyes wide behind thick glasses. Tyson stepped forward, his presence immediately commanding attention. His voice, when he spoke, carried the same authority that had silenced arenas worldwide. "You boys looking for trouble?" The question hung in the air like a challenge, his New York accent cutting through the tension like a blade. The gang members exchanged uncertain glances, their bravado wavering in the face of this unexpected opponent. The confrontation exploded into chaos as the first gang member lunged forward, his switchblade flashing toward Mack. Without hesitation, Tyson moved with the speed and precision that had made him a legend in the ring. His left hand shot out, catching the attacker's wrist with bone-crushing force, while his right fist connected with devastating accuracy to the man's solar plexus. The impact sent the gang member crumpling to the ground, gasping for air as his weapon clattered across the wet pavement. The remaining two assailants attacked simultaneously, their movements coordinated with practiced brutality. One swung his blade in a wide arc, while the other attempted a low strike to Tyson's legs. Tyson's boxing instincts took over, executing a perfect bob and weave maneuver that left his attackers off balance. With a powerful uppercut, he sent the first attacker sprawling backward into a pile of crates, the wood splintering under the force of the impact. The second gang member managed to slash at Tyson's jacket, but the cut only seemed to fuel his determination. Drawing upon techniques from his famous peekaboo style, Tyson maintained a defensive stance that protected his vital areas while keeping his opponents in constant motion. When one attacker tried to circle behind him, Tyson spun with surprising agility for a man of his size, delivering a thunderous hook that sent the gang member crashing through a wooden pallet. The sound of splintering wood echoed through the alleyway, mixing with the terrified whimpers of the trapped teenagers. The final gang member, realizing he was outmatched, pulled a small handgun from his waistband. Time seemed to slow as Tyson assessed the situation, drawing from his experience in high-pressure situations. He feinted left before surging forward with explosive power. His shoulder connected with the gunman's chest, sending both men tumbling to the ground. The gun discharged harmlessly into the air as Tyson's iron grip secured the weapon, his fingers closing around it with practiced control born from years of handling equipment in the gym. As the last attacker lay unconscious beside his comrades, Tyson stood amidst the wreckage of the confrontation. His breathing was controlled, his stance still ready for action. Yet his eyes showed no sign of the rage that had once defined his fighting style, only a calculated calm, the kind that came from years of mastering his emotions inside and outside the ring. The teenagers stared at him in awe, their fear gradually giving way to something else: hope. "This ends tonight," Tyson declared, his voice carrying the same authority that had once commanded respect in the squared circle. The victory in the alley triggered a chain reaction throughout Blackwater Bay's underworld. Within hours, news of Tyson's intervention reached Victor Draven's inner circle, setting off a series of increasingly desperate and violent responses. The Black Vipers, feeling their grip on the territory slipping, launched a campaign of terror unlike anything the town had seen before. Storefronts that had previously displayed their serpent emblem were now targeted with military-grade explosives, reducing entire blocks to smoldering ruins. Families who dared to speak Tyson's name found their homes surrounded by masked figures in the dead of night, their windows shattered and walls spray-painted with death threats written in blood-red paint. Yet amidst this escalating reign of terror, something remarkable began to stir in Blackwater Bay. Tyson's stand in the alley had planted a seed of resistance that refused to be extinguished. Mac and Lily became unlikely messengers of hope, sharing their story with anyone who would listen. Their words spread through the underground network of survivors, reaching ears that had long since stopped believing in heroes. The Thompson family diner, once a target of weekly extortion, transformed into a secret meeting place where townsfolk gathered to share information and plan their next moves. The turning point came when Sarah Chen, a former investigative journalist turned diner waitress, recognized Tyson's potential to galvanize the community. Her extensive network of contacts and deep understanding of organized crime provided crucial intelligence about the Black Viper's operations. Together with Mac's tech-savvy younger brother, Ethan, they began documenting the gang's activities, compiling evidence that would prove invaluable in the coming conflict. The diner's basement became a command center, its walls covered with maps and surveillance photos, while encrypted communication channels allowed residents to coordinate without fear of interception. As Tyson moved through the town, his presence became a catalyst for change. Shopkeepers, who had once cowered behind counters, now stood taller, their eyes meeting his with a mixture of gratitude and determination. Children, who had learned to recognize the sound of danger, now pointed excitedly at Tyson's passing figure, their laughter carrying through streets that had known only silence for too long. The transformation was subtle but undeniable. The collective posture of fear was gradually being replaced by something stronger, something that couldn't be intimidated by threats or violence. The final confrontation unfolded in the abandoned Blackwater steel mill, its cavernous interior transformed into the Black Viper's stronghold. The building's massive steel girders formed a labyrinth of shadows, while pools of stagnant water reflected the harsh glare of industrial lights. Tyson entered alone, his every movement deliberate as he navigated the maze of machinery and catwalks. The air vibrated with the hum of generators and the distant drip of water, punctuated by the occasional metallic clang as gang members moved through the complex. Victor Draven awaited him in the central chamber, surrounded by his most loyal enforcers. The gang leader's massive frame was silhouetted against a wall of monitors displaying security footage from throughout the facility. "You've made a grave mistake coming here, old man," Draven sneered, his voice amplified by the acoustics of the space around him. Armed men took positions on elevated platforms, their weapons trained on Tyson's solitary figure. Without warning, the attack came from all sides. Enforcers rappelled down from the ceiling, their boots striking the metal floor with deafening crashes. Tyson dropped into his fighting stance, his muscles coiled like springs. The first wave hit him simultaneously, but his legendary reflexes allowed him to weave through their attacks. A spinning back fist sent one attacker crashing into a control panel, sparks flying as circuits overloaded. Another lunged with a machete, only to find himself lifted off his feet and slammed into a support beam with bone-shattering force. Draven watched from his command post, his expression darkening as his men fell one by one. "Take him down!" he roared, signaling for reinforcements. The second wave consisted of heavier hitters, men wearing tactical gear and wielding bats reinforced with steel cores. Tyson adapted his strategy, using the environment to his advantage. He kicked over a vat of oil, creating a slick surface that sent several attackers sliding uncontrollably into machinery. The smell of burning rubber filled the air as he executed a series of devastating combinations, each punch landing with the precision of a master craftsman. The battle reached its climax when Draven himself descended from his perch, wielding a pair of custom-forged steel knuckle dusters. The two titans clashed in the center of the chamber, their impacts reverberating through the structure like cannon fire. Tyson's defense was impenetrable, his guard held high as he weathered Draven's assault. When the opportunity presented itself, he struck with devastating efficiency, a left hook that shattered Draven's weapon, followed by a right cross that sent the gang leader reeling. As Draven collapsed to his knees, the remaining enforcers hesitated, their confidence shattered. Tyson stood victorious amidst the wreckage, his chest heaving, but his stance unwavering. The monitors displaying the gang's surveillance footage flickered and died as backup systems failed, plunging the chamber into darkness save for emergency lighting. In that moment, as Draven's empire crumbled around him, Tyson delivered his final message. Fear dies when people refuse to be afraid. The aftermath of the Blackwater steel mill confrontation rippled through the town like a cleansing wave, washing away years of accumulated fear and corruption. As dawn broke over Blackwater Bay, residents emerged from their homes to find the once omnipresent Black Viper symbols defaced or removed entirely. The Thompson family diner became a makeshift community center, its parking lot filled with vehicles bearing signs of celebration, balloons tied to rearview mirrors, streamers fluttering in the morning breeze. Inside, Sarah Chen worked tirelessly alongside local authorities, piecing together the mountain of evidence collected during the previous night's operation. The transformation was immediate and profound. Shopkeepers who had once paid protection money now invested those funds in revitalizing their businesses, painting over graffiti-marked walls and replacing shattered windows. The industrial district, once a ghost town after sunset, buzzed with activity as workers returned to long-abandoned factories and warehouses. Parents felt safe enough to let their children play outside again, their laughter echoing through streets that had known only silence for too long. Even the local police department underwent a dramatic shift, with several officers resigning or facing investigation based on evidence uncovered during the raid. Mac and Lily Thompson became symbols of the town's rebirth, their story featured in national news outlets. The siblings, once terrified victims of gang violence, now led youth empowerment programs aimed at preventing future generations from falling prey to similar circumstances. Ethan's technical expertise proved invaluable in establishing a community monitoring system, ensuring that any attempts to resurrect the Black Viper influence would be immediately detected and addressed. For Mike Tyson, the victory represented more than just another chapter in his storied life. It embodied the evolution of his legacy, from boxing champion to community protector. As he prepared to leave Blackwater Bay, he handed Mac a pair of his signature boxing gloves, their leather worn from countless training sessions. "Remember," he said, his voice carrying the wisdom of experience, "real strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about having the courage to stand up when everyone else is sitting down." The crowd that gathered to see him off included faces he'd never met, but whose lives he'd changed forever. Shopkeepers, factory workers, teachers, and children, all united by a newfound sense of hope and determination.